Well, here we are again. A few months after the release of the competitive failings of Smash Ultimate, I told myself that I'd give the game 3 more major balance patches to fix any of its fundamental issues. And you can probably tell by the fact that we're here now that it hasn't really. I want to preface this all by saying that I don't hate this game, and I don't actively want to see it fail. I made this video and the previous one for the exact opposite reasons, because I believe that Smash Ultimate is a game that deserves to be as good as its potential suggests. But right now, it isn't. And I don't think it's particularly close either. In terms of sheer content and clear love and passion put into it, it's still amazing. Sakurai and the design team have put unreal amounts of effort into faithfully translating and even in some cases reviving classic characters and their series for use in this game. It's just an unreal crossover event, one with a level of content that simply boggles the mind. As of the game's most recent patch, it passed over 1,000 songs. Most Persona fans haven't even heard 1,000 songs. But as a competitive game, I think it's a massive disappointment. And this brings me on to a little something I want to handle before I really get into things. The competitive failings of Smash Ultimate was the video that effectively launched my channel. Awesome in the way that I've been able to make a living off of this since, and that people actually know and care who I am. Not awesome in that my channel was very small at the time, and I just was not used to having that many eyes on me. I'd never had anything I'd made held up to that level of scrutiny before. With this, as expected, came a fair amount of people who took issue with the video. Some criticisms were fairly reasonable. The video does take over 5 minutes to really get into it. I am an exceptionally rambly human being, and I like to have fun and tell stories. I justified this 5-minute preamble by telling myself that people who had a problem with it should just pull the sticks out of their asses and lighten up a bit and have some fun with the video, and whilst I secretly still believe that, I am also going to put a timestamp up on screen right now so you can see where to go to if you want to skip straight to the main body of the video. I can also do chapters now, which should help a fair bit if you truly hate fun that much. I say all this because before I get there, I want to take some time to address some of said criticisms, as well as a particular video response that a lot of people have been asking for my take on. While there were a couple of reasonable criticisms, there were also a lot of really fucking stupid ones. I like making people laugh, and a lot of the knuckle-dragging smooth brains in the YouTube comment section and on Twitter, but I can't be bothered to go out of my way to look for you motherfuckers right now, have given me license to do so with very little effort. So for the sake of making this video more digestible to those people who have the listening comprehension of a Panasonic microwave, and because it's fun, let's address some of the critiques some people had with the original video, so that the people who have these issues might be able to sit through this one without wanting to set themselves on fire. For the record, considering the video's subject matter, the response was overwhelmingly positive, which I very much appreciate, but I also have a lot of pent-up passive aggression to release. I hate to have to do this, but it's time to reveal to you all a side of me that you've never seen before. It's time to unleash Dark Brad. Perhaps the most persistent problem people had with the video was this idea that Smash is intended as a party game, and that it's therefore stupid to criticize it as a competitive game. The thing is that games are played in ways that differ from the developer's intentions all over the place, most notably in speedrunning. If a Super Mario Sunshine speedrunner wanted to criticize how good Sunshine is as a speed game based on the RNG of the King Boo fight, then let them. Perhaps they just have to recognize that it might not necessarily warrant holding the developers directly responsible. If someone wants to complain about how bad a certain Pokemon game is for nuzlocking, they're still well within their rights to do so, and there's an argument to be made in regards to how nuzlocks are clearly becoming a big part of Pokemon fan culture, and perhaps the developers could stand to design the games to be more accommodating of people who want to play it that way. I'm not going to be the guy to make that argument, because Nintendo and Game Freak are very weird and hate acknowledging anything organic that fans make up themselves, and it'll almost definitely never happen, but still. Furthermore, if there's any Smash game you can feasibly criticize as a competitive game and hold the developers responsible for its flaws, it's this one. While they do completely half-arse it, Nintendo have pushed for Smash events and tournaments for Ultimate more than any other game in the series before. They hosted a pre-release invitational for the game at E3 2018 with a rule set that, by Nintendo standards, was terrifyingly close to the rule sets used at tournaments and featured exclusively top competitive players from previous titles. They continue to host open tournaments now, albeit often with wonky rule sets, and also sponsor some of of the tournaments they don't actively try and destroy. Don't tell me that mechanics like directional air dodging and dash dancing weren't brought back to appease competitive players, because they blatantly were. Sakurai himself has stated that with Ultimate, he's trying to find a balance between cooperative and competitive play, and even if I don't feel like his game is succeeding in that, this should have been obvious anyway. Ultimate is a game that's intended to be more competitive than any other Smash game before, including Melee, which is basically as good as it is by accident, and has never had events supported by Nintendo in remotely the same way. They continue to patch and balance the game well after release, and as we'll get into in the main part of this video, do a very inconsistent job at it. Listen, if I wanted to, I could make a video analysing how good Mario Odyssey is as a game about a man who throws his hat, and I might do one day because I'm very weird. You're just mad because it's not Smash 4. No, actually, I'm mad because it's badly designed. Imagine every time you go to McDonald's, you order a cheeseburger, and then one time, when you go to take a bite, there's a fucking scorpion in it. And so you go and complain, and then some dude stands up and shouts at you from across the room, "You're just mad because it's not like the other cheeseburgers." I mean, it's not. You're right, it's definitely not like the other cheeseburgers. I liked the other cheeseburgers, that's why I kept ordering them and coming back here. If you can believe it, I didn't actually ask for the scorpion. It's no secret that I like Smash 4 as a competitive game. It was far from perfect, I talked a lot about its flaws in the previous video, but I'm not strictly disappointed with Ultimate because it isn't like Smash 4. I'm disappointed with it because it creates problems that no previous Smash game, or just about any other fighting game ever, has had. The level of unintuitiveness and clunkiness caused by this game's own design and mechanics is unprecedented. It literally makes certain maneuvers that were possible in every previous game, and that are theoretically possible in this game, borderline impossible for players to do for reasons that are clearly not intentional. Control is a fundamental part of any video game, and Ultimate botches it hugely. That's bad design. You are biased! Yeah, of course I'm biased. What? I'm shocked that some people have tried to levy this against me as if it invalidates my argument. The idea that some people have clicked on a video with this thumbnail called "The Competitive Failings of Smash Ultimate," watched it, and then thought to themselves, "Damn, this guy's really biased against Smash Ultimate." It's just amazing to me. You know what bias is, right? Like, I'm well aware that I am arguing against one game and then occasionally in favour of another. Everything about the video is very transparent that it is biased. That's the point of the video. I'm making an argument, I'm taking a side. I wonder if these same people watch Joe Biden at debates and are like, "Damn, this guy's really biased in favour of the Democrats." Not long after the original video's release, Panda Global ranked top 50 Smash Ultimate player in the world, ESAM reached out to me to ask if he could make a response video. He was very cool and respectful about the whole thing, and once I accepted, he gave me a heads up to let me know when he'd be streaming it so that I could be present in Twitch chat and discuss it with him, and he even sought my feedback on the eventual video's thumbnail and title. This is a hell of a lot more than some people, who I'm not going to show on screen for reasons I'm not going to go into in this video, did. And yes, I did eventually unfollow him on Twitter, and I felt really bad about it, but I just like to try and keep my social media consumption to a minimum, and he tweets a lot, but I hope he didn't take it personally, because I feel like it made me seem kind of prickly, but I do actually think you're a pretty cool guy, ESAM. No beef. Please don't lightning with me. If I respond to everything said in this video, we'll be here all day. The simple premise is that ESAM is looking at the things I say from the perspective of a competitor. I am looking at these things from a game design perspective. I call the buffer system inconsistent in the original video, which he disagrees with, and technically he's right. Technically it's not inconsistent. It does function the same way every time you use it. When I say inconsistent, I mean inconsistent as in inconsistent with every other game in its series and every other properly coded fighting game ever made. But maybe inconsistent isn't the best word for it. Perhaps incongruous would be better, as in nonsensical. ESAM argues that these things are just different and that you can get used to it, which is an argument that I touched on in the original video before this response was made, but from the competitor's perspective from which he's speaking, I think he's right. If you're a competitor, you should just get used to these things. If I were a competitor, I would just get used to these things, because why not do everything you can to get better? And hypothetically, you can get used to these things, and if you don't, then you're not going to be a very good competitor for very long. But I maintain that this does not mean it's not poorly designed. As I say, making full hop aerials impossible to buffer and giving you aerials based on the direction you're holding the analog stick when the move comes out, as opposed to when it was buffering, is unprecedented in these games, and it's clearly not intentional. It's not something the developers ever talk about or mention as an exciting new feature or a fresh change to the engine. I mean, of course they don't, it's Nintendo, but you get my point. This isn't Marvel vs. Capcom being like, yo, the Infinity Stones are in now, check out this cool new mechanic. The easy short hop aerial mechanic in Smash Ultimate is designed to make the game more accessible competitively, but it has unintended consequences that make the game more complicated to understand than it's ever needed to be, and they still haven't been addressed to this day. The casual player looking to get more competitive isn't going to be able to understand why they're getting neutral air despite having the C stick held in a different direction. They're not going to understand why they can't buffer full hops, and the process of understanding why, before my video came along, is going to be more arduous than the process of understanding about 90% of the other mechanics in competitive Smash. And this is largely because of something intended to do the exact opposite. That is a failure in design. Stop! Elaborate metaphor time. Let's say I buy a gun, and when I go to shoot this gun, instead of the bullet flying out of the chamber and directly in front of me, it instead shoots the bullet out of the bottom of the handle and directly into my foot, blowing my big toe off. Whilst screaming in agonising pain, do I think to myself, that's pretty weird, guess I should get used to that? Or do I not take the gun back to the gun store and say, that is the stupidest fucking gun I've ever seen in my entire life, who designed it like that? And demand to instead be given a proper gun that works like every other gun in the world. ESAM argues that the video should not have been called The Competitive Failings of Smash Ultimate because, as he says, from a competitor's perspective, these things are not failings, they are just different. If the video were perhaps instead called The Design Failings of Smash Ultimate, he wouldn't have much of a problem with it. I do think this is a bit pedantic because I feel the game's design failures have a very significant effect on the game's competitive potential, both as a player and a spectator. It does also affect casual players who aren't going to know why their characters are doing things they didn't input, which in my mind is a testament to how big the buffer system problems really are, but most casual players won't care and just kind of want to push buttons. I see his point, but as we are looking at this game and its design from very different perspectives, I don't think we're ever going to be able to fully agree on this, and that's fine. I hope this somewhat satiates ESAM's philosophies as well as some of the mad cause bad people. I can't speak from a top level competitor's perspective because I'm not a top level competitor. I don't want to be a top level competitor because the game is not fun to me, and the game is not fun because I think it is badly designed. Why would I waste my time trying to get good at a game that I don't even enjoy? I will link ESAM's response video in the description. I obviously still think it's worth a watch. He has an interesting and very different perspective, and it was nice to have some internet discourse with someone in which neither of us claim to have fucked the other's mums. Okay, housekeeping done. You might be looking at the time of this video right now thinking, damn, where's the intro at? Whereas I, as always, am looking into things too much. On the last edition of Smash Ultimate is Bad, actually, I went into excruciating detail about some of the game's mechanics and inner workings, and a whole bunch of commenters had very concerning meltdowns over a 1-second joke made at the expense of a fictional character. I hate to tell you this, guys, but they're not real. You know that, right? Perhaps this time I'll choose to upset the Min Bin fans. Both of them. I rarely ever do this because I feel like when YouTubers do it, it's simply to drive views to their other videos in a very fake and see-through way, but in order to watch this video, I really do recommend you watch its predecessor, The Competitive Failings of Smash Ultimate, first. I explain a lot of complicated stuff about Smash Ultimate's buffer system and other mechanics in it that I'm not going to repeat here, otherwise we'll be here forever. If you haven't seen that video, this one isn't going to make much sense to you unless you already know more about the game than like 80% of people, and probably haven't understood much of what's been said up until now either. As of the recording of this video, it's been nearly a year since I last talked about Smash Ultimate. There have been 3 major balance patches, as well as the very odd and random but still appreciated addition of Small Battlefield. Min, Steve, and Anime Dennis Reynolds have all been added to the game, and I like to think that saying all this won't date the video too bad. If many of the things that I'm going to go on to speculate in this video turn out to be true, then I like to believe that this video will still be relevant for a long time, even if as it releases, we're probably only about a month or 2 from the next character reveal. If you're watching this from the future, then hello! How's the Barney patch? Did they fix Mewtwo's tail hurt box yet? No? Can't say I'm surprised. This video seeks to answer a simple question. What is the state of Smash Ultimate? 10 plus months on, has anything changed? Well, I'm happy to report that compared to my last video, Smash Ultimate has improved. By about 5%. I mean, it's something. I broke the original video down into 3 main sections: control, design and balance, and online. And I'm going to do the same here, though they won't require as many lengthy explanations. I have a little special something going on towards the back end of the video, and for reasons that will soon become clear, I'm also going to tackle them in a different order, starting with This section here is pretty much the sole reason I say that Smash Ultimate has improved. With Min Min in June of 2020 came patch 8.0, which, dare I say, was the best patch the game has received yet. That's not saying much because, again, none of the game's fundamental issues have been solved in any of them, but as far as design and balance is concerned, I liked this one quite a lot, and I think most people would agree. This patch continued on the buffs over nerfs philosophy the design team have been using up until now, and that I think is very wise. A myriad of characters were buffed: Kirby, Falcon, Falco, Marth, Mewtwo, Meta Knight, Pit, Diddy, Villager, Wii Fit, and more. In typical Smash Ultimate fashion, a lot of these appear to have been completely ineffective and extremely misguided, but the thought does count, and some of them do appear to have mattered. While it's hard to judge exactly how much in this current online era we're living in, which we'll get to, don't worry, characters like Falcon and Falco do seem to have legitimately been improved quite a lot, and it'll be nice to see if they can become meta relevant once offline comes back. By far the best changes this patch made, however, was not even to a character who was necessarily buffed. In the last video I used Pokemon Trainer as an example of really good patching on the dev team's part. He was a character who was good, but largely due to one facet of the character. Instead of outright nerfing them, they simply toned down the over-centralizing aspects of the character whilst also buffing the weaker parts at the same time, making for a character who was still just about as good as they were before, but simultaneously far more interesting and diverse in strategy. This made Pokemon Trainer, in my opinion, one of the most well-designed characters in the game, and I'd hoped in the previous video that this was an approach the dev team would take again, and it seems that they have, with Ike. I actually used Ike as an example of a character who was largely good because of one or two obnoxious tools, namely Neutral Air, and thus not interestingly designed at all in that previous video. With patch 8.0, that all changed. The dev team increased the knockback on his Neutral Air, which is actually a pretty significant nerf because it guts the move as a combo tool, reducing the reward off of it. At the same time, they buffed other tools like down tilt, forward air and up B to compensate. Some could argue that Ike's up B is now a bit much as well, and I'd get that, but it's far less egregious than his Nair was before in my opinion. These changes are excellent. Ike still feels about as good as he was before, but he's significantly more interesting with a far less one-dimensional strategy. Mwah! Beautiful. Perfect. If we can get the same treatment for some of these degenerates, the game might actually have a chance of being pretty sick even without fixes to buffer or online. Of course, however, buffer and online in my mind remain the biggest issues plaguing the game, and I think most would agree. Patch 8.0 was pretty good, but did nothing about either of these things, and it's all downhill from here. Patch 9.0 came along with Steve in October of 2020, and it was okay. This might surprise you, but I actually think the response the competitive community had to this patch was quite unnecessarily negative, largely because we were well and truly into the online quarantine era of the game by this point, and this patch buffed characters like Sonic and Ness, who were both already considered to be very good online. The Ness buffs to his dash attack, down air and up throw and whatnot were all a bit strange, considering that Ness was already a provably strong character, both offline and on. The Sonic buffs, on the other hand, in my opinion, were totally justified, but damn if people weren't upset about this. Sonic is a character who is statistically improved in online play. I'll link this great video by GIMR in the description about how, and yeah, sure, he's not really fun at all to play against when played optimally. He's just another of Smash Ultimate's horrendously designed characters in my opinion, but then he's been awfully designed since Brawl, so. Thing is, this patch largely fixed his previously non-functioning multi-hits. A character could be Brawl Meta Knight levels of broken, but if they have multi-hit moves that don't work, that needs to be fixed. If you have a character who has multi-hit moves that opponents frequently fall out of and you never fix them, that is bad design. This patch sought to fix a lot of characters' previously non-functioning multi-hit moves across the board. Yet you've got droves of people complaining online that they buffed Pikachu in this patch by making his forward air connect more consistently, complaining that they buffed Shulk by making his up smash connect more reliably. Buffs or not, these are fixes first and foremost, and they should be done. That's the attitude I had with Sonic, that's the attitude I had with most of this patch. This patch also sought to buff characters like Lucario, Bowser Jr., the Belmonts, and the Ice Climbers to mostly mixed and middling results. Ice Climbers have long been one of the buggiest and messiest characters in the game, and whilst this patch did go some way to alleviate some of their problems, there's still a long way to go. What should frustrate people more than anything about this patch is that a lot of the attempted fixes didn't work. There are still multi-hit moves causing weird interactions left and right, and a lot of the fixes and changes in this patch, as always, amounted to nothing. Smash Ultimate's patches continue to be a series of half measures. Fixing the swath of dysfunctional moves is a noble goal, but it almost always seems to be two steps forward, one step back. Which brings me to patch 10.0, which released alongside Sephiroth in December of 2020. Look at this! That's it. That's the patch. A bunch of attempted multi-hit fixes and nothing else. No real balance changes to speak of, and of course, no changes to the buffer system and easy short-up aerial mechanic. No changes to body blocking, the ridiculously sticky platforms, or any of the other many fundamental problems the game still has. What's worse is that yet again, a lot of these attempted fixes do not seem to have helped. Supposedly, they made Rosalina's forward air easier to hit multiple times. Supposedly, they made Fox's forward air easier to hit multiple times. This patch was disheartening at best and outright aggravating at worst. Do the design team just not think there's anything else in this game worth changing right now? I like to believe that it's more so a matter of them just not having time to make the bevy of changes they did in 8.0 because Sephiroth came out pretty quickly after Steve. Only the next patch will tell, I guess. Finally, patch 8.1 is worth a quick mention. This somewhat inexplicably added small battlefield from seemingly out of nowhere in August of 2020, and also supposedly added improvements to the online experience, which we'll talk about later. This was a bit sudden, but still a nice gesture. Smash Ultimate remains a well-balanced game, which is especially commendable considering how ridiculously huge the roster is. It's still very hard to pin down exactly who the best character in the game is, and at the very least, the patches haven't created any hugely overpowered monstrosities just yet. That being said, in the last video I talked about how frustrating it was to see characters that clearly aren't good getting buffs to completely unnecessary tools that don't change anything and only seem likely to make the characters boring and one-dimensional should these patches ever actually improve them. Despite the fact that I addressed this very argument by outright saying that I'm not saying that every character should have every weakness of theirs fixed, a lot of people, both in the comments but also in their litany of video and live stream reactions, said that not every character should have every weakness of theirs fixed, which, yeah, I know, it's part of their design, and as I said, it does make for some very interesting characters. This is why I like characters in the game like Inkling and Crom, who are very strong in lots of areas but also have a fatal flaw to keep them interesting. I think they're pretty well designed. I don't think Donkey Kong should have ZSS's disadvantage state, for example, but it just baffles me how the design team seem to know that he's not a good character and seem to think that making his forward tilt send slightly further is going to change that. There are clearly more significant problems like his lack of safe moves on shield and lackluster off stage up B, which they did try and touch to little to no effect, but I guess this is just what happens when you go on record as saying that you're going to balance the game based on quick play. This of course is where a bunch of people would jump in and say that you shouldn't expect characters to be amazingly designed for competitive play when it's supposed to be a party game, to which I would say we can and should expect better for a game that claims to be trying to toe the line between both casual and competitive play, and that is actively promoting and hosting tournaments no matter how wonky they seem. Something a lot of people seem to be surprised that I didn't mention in the previous video was the matter of input lag. I'll admit I didn't really know a lot about input lag and I wasn't aware of what a problem it was. Don't take my word as gospel on this, but after doing some research it seems that, yeah, Smash Ultimate has the highest amount of input lag of any Smash game. This means the amount of time it takes for the game to actually register your input, which, when you combine it with the buffer system and online, hugely contributes to the game feeling like you're playing TV static. Supposedly, Smash Ultimate has an input delay of between 6 to 7 frames. The Switch as a console itself, however, is also pretty notorious for having a lot of native input delay. The game's online also functions via something called delay-based netcode as opposed to the much more preferable rollback netcode, which I'll get to. To put it in simple terms, in absolutely ideal conditions, the least amount of input lag you can possibly expect when playing Smash Ultimate Online is 11 frames. Compare that to almost any other big budget fighting game in the world right now, and you'll see how vomit-inducing that is. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because this stuff isn't exactly my forte, but it seems that the worst part about this is that there isn't really any fix for it on account of the Switch's aforementioned native input delay. I could sit here and complain about so many other things like body blocking, sticky platforms, Heroes menu mechanic being a legitimately unfair language barrier for players from different countries fighting each other in tournament, shield poking and characters having shields way too small to function has also been a problem with the game in the past, though the patches have actually done a decent job at remedying this by increasing the shield sizes of a lot of characters. Regardless, about 80% of the game's core issues have not been fixed. It still feels as if the game has less movement and neutral options and less tools for player expression than any previous entry in the series. I really thought no one would ever beat my goats butting horns comparison from the previous video, but then along came Snacks256, who amazingly said that Smash Ultimate doesn't have footsies, it has jousting, which, yep, spot on. The game's design and balance has improved ever so slightly since we last spoke, but it was already the least problematic aspect, and the game is still largely the same. So take that as you will. This is going to be the shortest section in the video because, as I say, nothing has changed. I simply want to reiterate what a problem this is. I believe it's the single biggest problem that faces the game. On account of us currently being in the online era, I think a lot of people have come to believe that the game's online is its biggest issue, but I vehemently disagree. There is going to come a time where online is going to fade back into the background again. I don't think the current state it's in is acceptable, but soon a time is going to come when people who don't want to put up with it to play the game won't have to. The buffer system, the easy shot-up aerial mechanic, the order of priority, and the way they all interact with each other are going to continue to affect every match, online or offline, for the rest of the game's lifespan for as long as it goes unfixed. If you want to hear my explanation on how all this stuff works and why I think it's such a problem, jump to like the 6-minute mark of the previous video. Greninja is an example I used in said video of a victim of this game's design. So many crucial parts of his game plan come down to having to contest with this game's buffering. Down tilt and dash attack both combo into full hop forward air for a kill confirm at high percent, but he can't buffer those full hops, making an otherwise simple kill confirm unnecessarily hard. Down tilt combos into up smash at high percent, but he has to awkwardly buffer a dash forward just the right amount, and the up smash, which is actually kind of a nightmare with the game's traditional input buffer and humongous hold buffer. Yes, players can get good at this stuff, and they have, but that's not the point. You can see the game's buffering and mechanics making the game unnecessarily harder all over the place. Even Mario's ladder combos in Smash 4, they were so easy. I mean, of course they were. They weren't exactly a marvel of technical execution, but they are comparatively harder in Ultimate for artificial reasons. Mario and Greninja are two of the characters who have changed the least between Smash 4 and Ultimate. Very little has changed about their fundamental design, but when you try and string together a bunch of up airs into an up B or a down air or whatever, you'll be contesting with the highest amount of input lag any Smash game has ever had. You'll be contesting with a C stick that often doesn't function as intended, and you'll be contesting with a buffer system that prioritizes short hop aerials above all else and will give you one if you just so happen to push the jump and attack buttons within too close a proximity to each other. Yes, people can still do the Mario ladder combos, but they happen so much more rarely in this game because of the way the game complicates your inputs. Getting used to bad design doesn't suddenly stop it from being bad design. If the buffering were ever fixed, the training weights would be taken off and you'd far more frequently see these characters doing the crazy kind of stuff they were doing in Smash 4. I want to reiterate that this stuff isn't just different in a cool or interesting way. No other Smash game has operated like this, nor has it ever had any reason to. No other Smash game has ever made full hops impossible to buffer or had the C-stick choose which aerial you perform based on your directional stick's position when the move came out as opposed to during buffering. This is a different kind of skill check than reading an opponent's air dodge or learning to DI a kill move, because those things are intentionally put into the game and they add layers of depth to it. Those are what skill checks should be. A game randomly asking for more precision to perform simple things that they could perform with much less hassle in every previous iteration of its own series because of the unintentional consequences of a mechanic implemented to make the game simpler and easier to pick up and play is not a good skill check, it is bad design. And this brings to mind the instant double jump. A while back, a player by the name of Snazen discovered something the community now call the instant double jump, or IDJ. It's cool, it allows you to bypass the short hop aerial mechanic as long as you do the correct inputs within a 4-frame window, but it's pretty complicated and can easily give you a misinput up smash or delayed short hop aerial. It just says everything about Smash Ultimate's controls that players have had to actively pioneer and research something that you could just do in previous Smash games. This never needed to be a tech before, it was just a buffered double jump aerial, or a rising aerial, which Ultimate's short hop aerial mechanic has made basically impossible to do. And this should be something you can just do. There should be no need for a 4-frame window or potential misinputs. It should just be a part of the game like it always has before. It would add a hell of a lot if it were just made simpler, but this is what Ultimate does. It asks for more research and more precision from players at random times like this without actually rewarding them with more. It just lets them do stuff that were fundamental parts of the designs of the previous games. Here's a game where we've lost shield dropping, we've lost perfect pivoting, and we've lost footstool combos, and we're having to pioneer a fucking rising aerial. This is why the game is not fun to me, and why I would instead seek to spend my time playing a game that makes sense, instead of trying to improve at a game that functions in such a nonsensical manner. Smash Ultimate has been out for over 2 years as of the release of this video. The short hop aerial problem and consequently the game's buffering order of priority have remained almost entirely unchanged since since day one. I'm simply amazed that Sakurai and the design team have managed to program a character like Steve, an actual marvel of design, one of the most complicated and ambitious characters I've ever seen made for a game like this, and implement them so beautifully into Ultimate whilst somehow overlooking this and having still not fixed it. Apparently Twitter don't think Steve is cool. I mean, Twitter don't think any character they can't mash buttons with or on 24/7 are cool, but take my word for it, Steve is cool, okay? At the risk of sounding overly dramatic, I think the problems caused by the buffering, easy short-up aerial mechanic, and order of priority make every other problem the game has, including online, look completely trivial. This is even a part of why the online experience is so bad, because of the way that it combines with lag and inherent input delay. I'm dead serious when I say that if the dev team fixed this problem, it would immediately improve Smash Ultimate as a game exponentially, and what's most frustrating is that it doesn't even seem like a hard fix. Just give people a toggle to turn the easy short hop aerial off, let them map it to one button, it is treated by the game like it's one action, or just shuffle around the order of priority a bit and revert buffering aerials back to the way it was in previous games. If you can make a character like Steve, you can fix this, and doing so alone, I mean this with the utmost sincerity, I believe would instantaneously turn Smash Ultimate from a bad competitive game to an at least good one. All the other problems with the game, whilst still existent, would somewhat fade into the background as the game at least feels good to play again. The balance is better than it's ever been, the game's presentation is immaculate, so many things are in place for this game to be the best Smash game ever, but it's been over 2 years, and these small little tweaks that we're practically praying for, that in my mind would basically save the game, are yet to happen or even be mentioned by the developers.
Ratio. That sounds really good here. And, you know, Vicky, I want to get to you here, and once we finally got things rolling here, we've got the matchup of Arrow going with Zero's.
In the previous video, I mistakenly speculated towards the end that Smash Ultimate's online problems were likely due to Nintendo's awful online service. I said in that same video that I didn't know much about what netcode was until Smash Ultimate and its horrendously laggy, slow, and inconsistent online came along. But it's fair to say that in recent times we have all become quite well acquainted with what netcode is and just how awful Smash Ultimate's is. You don't need me to explain this to you. Online is bad, like it is for almost every Nintendo game. And in the midst of a global pandemic, it's something everyone has to try and bear. So, about those online improvements that came along in 8.1. Research has told the community that 8.1 improved the game's tick rate / hertz from 30 packets a second to 60. This is all jargon to me, but supposedly the end result is that the game's online input delay has been reduced overall by about 1 frame. This change does apparently only apply to 1v1 lobbies. But even if it's just a frame, it does matter. It's just that obviously this is hardly the sweeping change necessary to make the game's online acceptable, or that players have been crying out for. Smash Ultimate's online, much like every other Smash game, and apparently just about every game made by Bandai Namco, operates via a form of netcode known as delay-based netcode. Delay-based netcode is easier to implement than the alternative. It needs to read inputs for both players' sides before it can advance the game state, and thus has to put some inherent delay in place in order to do so. Delay-based netcode by itself is not an issue, but it becomes particularly problematic when you have awful online and input delay like Smash Ultimate does, and it's not optimal for a fighting game like Smash. Rollback netcode, on the other hand, has no delay in place. It effectively predicts the actions of each player based on their previous actions if the connection is bad, and if it gets it wrong, corrects it in a matter of usually reactable milliseconds. In most of Rollback's worst case scenarios, it causes less lag and stuttering than delay-based, and when the connection is working, it just takes your inputs immediately, no delay necessary. It can of course come with its own weird problems, but it's certainly preferable for a game like this. A lot of people have taken to lobbying for Smash Ultimate to implement rollback netcode, which sadly I think is incredibly unlikely. From my very limited understanding, it's extremely hard to just upheave a game's netcode in such a way, and if we can't even expect them to affix the buffer or C-stick in over 2 years, or give the winner of EVO Japan anything better than a custom controller, then I don't think this is happening anytime soon. At the very least, Sakurai has said that further online improvements are to come, so I guess we'll just have to pin our hopes on that. The hashtag FixUltimateOnline took off on social media a few months ago and still pops up every now and then, and whether or not these promised changes are due to the campaign is hard to say. And while I don't like promoting hashtags 2 videos in a row, could we mobilize around hashtag FixUltimateBuffer or or fix Ultimate C-Stick or something next? I don't know if they know it's a problem, and it seems a much easier and more realistic fix than getting rollback netcode or something. Simple fact of the matter is, online's a joke. You see countless instances of forced disconnects or horrendous input lag in just about every one of the countless Wi-Fi tournaments players are having to endure at the moment. Will we ever get a meaningful fix? Like everything else, we kinda just have to wait and see. In the seemingly likely event that the dev team have been made aware of people's grievances via stuff like the Fix Ultimate Online hashtag, I think it's worth reiterating how sometimes the best way to get your complaints addressed is simply to make some noise about it. When I announced I was making this video, some dude quote retweeted me saying that such a thing was cringe and that no one should put that much effort into bitching. Whether you like it or not, this is how you get stuff done. It's a hell of a lot more constructive to be vocal about your criticisms in an organised and visible manner than to just throw endless complaints into the social media void. Hell, ESAM, who loves this game and outright defended it from me, has done a better job at effectively criticising it than about 90% of the community. There's a lot of people out there who, like myself, want to love this game and want it to be the best it can be. They recognise that it's far more productive to voice your issues and choose to believe that something can be better rather than just accepting something you're not fully satisfied with. And here's just a few of them who are gracious enough to sit down and talk with me about the game for the sake of this video. Hello people, do not avert your eyes. What you're seeing right now is not a competition to see who can collect the fluffiest lockdown hair and as a result create a homunculus lion out of it, as we are in fact both lion loyalists. This is, if you've been around for any period of time in the Smash community, Max Ketchum. Max, would it be fair to say, in the scheme of the Smash community, you are old AF?
Yeah, I used to consider myself like mid-school. Like my first tournament was like the end of 2007, but now that's basically like old as hell, dude.
Captain L, you were a member of the Smash 4 PGR on numerous occasions, right? Quite a few times.
Kind of twice. I mean, like the second one was top 100 and it was supposed to be like for the full game, but yeah, I did make one individual season placing.
When Ultimate came out, you were at like some of the first tournaments ever, right? Like Don't Park on the Grass comes to mind. Seeing you at that, this is kind of an extra question, so sorry if I'm throwing you a curveball here, but
all good.
Do you feel like you noticed something off with the game quickly, right away, or were you kind of still in the honeymoon phase for a while?
Okay, so it's actually even more in-depth than that. So not everyone knows this, but I actually did quit my traditional 9-to-5 office job when Ultimate was coming out, and I was planning to go like super hardcore into Ultimate. So when the game came out and I realized that Vito was gone and pivots were gone and I really wasn't in love with a lot of things, it was kind of like an anti-honeymoon phase where I was all of a sudden just like, man, I just made the biggest mistake of my life and this is going to be so awful. How am I going to get my job back? Blah, blah, blah. Especially when I was still trying to play Pikachu exactly the same way that I had played him in Smash 4.
It's worth just establishing before we start that, much like everyone I've interviewed so far, neither of us here hate Ultimate. Absolutely not, right? Like, more than anything...
I actually really like the game. I think out of all the people, I probably like the game most.
It's more so just a matter of wanting it to be the best it can be, wanting to see it fulfill its potential, and having a couple issues that haven't been addressed yet that we really would like to see addressed, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, which is probably what everyone's gonna say, is that the buffering and input system is just like unforgivably bad. You get stuff that you swear you didn't input so frequently. There's an inherent 6 frames or so of input delay for everything that you do, even offline. And then like even stuff that has nothing to do with like accidentally buffering a roll or whatever, you know, the way the C-Stick works and just like a whole bunch of other random things, just like they don't produce what you're looking for. You know, you blatantly like hit the C-Stick to the right and then your forward tilt to the left.
I think, okay, so like I had a lot of things that I was writing down and scratching out and writing down again, and what it really came down to is everything kind of falls under the same umbrella of the devs were prioritizing accessibility at the cost of depth. I think that those two things can totally coexist, and there's loads of games where they do coexist, but I think that in Ultimate, there was just so much stuff that is great for new players, but doesn't leave room to go beyond that. And so the first one that I wrote down was ground movement. It is great, and that's like a super broad category, obviously, but it is great that you can just start up the game and like already be able to dash dance and like move around, do run cancel, everything. There's like no technical barriers to being able to do that. But unlike in other Smash games, there's like there's really nothing above that. There's no second step. It's like you start being able to do basically everything, and there's like the most minor of like tiny little optimizations like pivot canceled F tilts and stuff that like will make a difference in like 1% of situations. But in all honesty, if you told me that like none of the top players use any advanced techniques in Ultimate, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because like none of them are really game defining in the ways that like advanced ground movement has been game defining in other Smash games. Notably, like if you watch any top Smash 4 players, you see them actually making use of pivots. And every time I see like the comment section of like any sort of Smash 4 hating tweet on Twitter, it's always like, oh, did anyone even use perfect pivots? Why is everyone so like mad that they're gone? But then you watch like any top level play, or even like upper mid level play of people who like intentionally love like technical mechanics, and you basically always see lots of very intricate ground movement.
All right, starting off, 100%. The first one is online. I'm pretty sure everyone said this. The online in this game is horrendous. 4 frames extra delay on top of the already large input delay that the game has. That just causes the entire metagame to shift. Unlike, I haven't seen another like game that shifts the meta so dramatically from the online. Because you know, fucking is it okay, Mister?
By all means, I swear like I say in all my videos.
Okay, Sonic is top 5, Samus, all the projectile characters, right? You know what I mean? That and the overall online interface is kind of horrendous. You know how good GSP is.
Yeah.
Can't switch characters. The spectator gives delay still. I heard it still gives delay, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Apparently it does in any lobby that has more than 2 players.
Yeah.
Second, I'd say the lack of movement and combos. It's like Brawl and Smash 4 suffered from this too, but I think Smash 4 probably had the least. Like there was the most hits done of those 3 games in Smash 4. Movement wasn't great. Like you can't wave dash or wave land in either of those games, but like in Ultimate, it's just very choppy and stunted. Like you can wave land, but it's bad, or like not as good as it could be. I use it a lot, but it's still not great. 20 frames of landing lag on directional air dodge. Like, come on, man. Like, stop teasing us and giving us these half measures. You can't even perfect pivot or shield drop, which are 2 things that have been in every single Smash game. And then the third, I think, is the terrible online. It's just like such an inhibitor to the game's growth, especially in a pandemic. But I think it's just bringing these issues to a head. But even beforehand, there are so many people who could have got into competitive Smash because they already own the game. But with online being so bad, not only the connections, but the interface and the integration with live events and like leaderboards and all that stuff just not existing at all, the online experience really holds the game and the scene back a lot.
The fact that they gave like everyone no landing lag on everything, like in theory, you see melee and you see like L canceling and everyone like loves how fast you can be with it, but I just think that it absolutely does not work in Ultimate, and it really just it's too much accessibility at the cost of like not really rewarding going any deeper. Because if you use basically any aerial in Ultimate, the correct timing for it is as low to the ground as possible, eat the landing lag, and you're still like only -2 on shield or something, right? So there's no like mix-ups of are you going to auto cancel it, are you going to do like an early one, are you going to do a late one? It's pretty much always you're doing it as low to the ground as possible, and that's as safe as you can be. And it's like you don't even have to space a lot of moves that you would expect that you have to space, just because the landing lag is so low that you can still have like basically some kind of 50-50, even if you use like a sortie forward air on shield, unless it's against like Game & Watch or the other like 3-frame out of shield characters. The other thing was character collisions, and this is kind of like a minor critique, but I still thought that it was worth listing it separately from ground movement. I think that not being able to run through someone, obviously as Ultimate does, could have been a fantastic change, and if they left the ground engine the way that it was before, I think it would have been a really good change. But just because, you can't do a lot on the ground, and then you also can't run through people, and you have such little lag, and you like push people away so it auto spaces. One of my biggest pet peeves is like the auto spacing down tilts like Prom and Roy have, where it's like it doesn't matter if they were inside you when they started it, they're going to be like a full character distance away afterwards. And then the other thing that compounds the character collisions being a bad idea is like the fact that you accelerate so fast from like a full hop, and you can just basically always use full hop in the corner. It really negates the whole, you would think that like not being able to run through someone means you can get corner on the stage a lot better, and corner pressure could be a lot better, and it kind of is, but it's like almost all for nothing, because like so many characters just have so good full hop, falling safe aerial in the corner.
Overall, just default input delay. I think it's because of the Switch. I heard that's what people say.
Yeah, so the Switch has its own native input delay.
Yeah, that sucks a lot. Okay, next problem. I think it's not the buffer, it's sticky platforms. I hate the platforms in this game because it's something with the buffer. Well, I mean, I guess it coincides with the buffer. I heard it's like, I don't know. Sometimes you do a move, you try to do like a forward air when you run off the stage, and you just do like a dash attack or something, right? Or something like it's just hard to get off platforms in certain scenarios. I don't know why.
I think probably the best change is that you can do anything out of your run. That just seems like it should have been in Smash forever. It's in Slap City, which is my personal favorite platform fighter. And I'm glad that they took that and added it. I also really like parrying. I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand it and they're like, oh, I should always get a really hard free punish every time I parry. It's like, nah, dude. Like, first of all, parrying is way easier than power shielding in terms of the frame window you have to do it. And second, like, it's, you know, I'd say a little bit more skill-based and deliberate. Power shielding happened by accident a lot, just from people, you know, clenching that shield button as soon as an attack comes their way. So I like parrying, but I'd say the number one is definitely being able to do anything out of a run.
I mean, this is probably the exact answer that everyone will give you, but the removal of rage, specifically on base knockback hits, I think was by far the best change. Overall, rage being like super toned down is absolutely a benefit for Ultimate. They kind of introduced a lot of other comeback mechanics, which almost shoots it in the foot, but at least it doesn't exist on things like Peach Up, you know?
Balance is way better in this game because there's no Bayo, there's no Cloud. Like those characters literally killed the game. Smash 4, they literally killed it. Both doubles and singles. But I think overall balancing, like rage, how the characters work and shit.
On one hand, I want to commend them for taking the minimalist approach because at its core, Ultimate is actually quite well balanced. I think that's something that Ultimate really nailed, is character balance. Obviously, like, you know, the difference between Joker and Jigglypuff, it's like, how the fuck are these characters in the same game? Felt the same way in Smash 4, like Bayo and Jigglypuff, for example. But I don't know, man. I also would like to see global mechanics change. Like in Smash 4, we saw them add a significant amount of hit stun, or shield stun rather, in one patch. And like, dude, where's that? Like, where's the wave landing patch? You know what I'm saying? Or the wave dashing patch for Ultimate? I would love that, but it looks like they're just trying to almost like not admit that the game is so imperfect and just take like baby steps to patch it up. I didn't even think about the buffer. Yeah, like when is that coming out? Because that changes no gameplay other than like how it feels in your hands. And yeah, I think Ultimate really is just half measures the game. You know, it's like, hey, competitive players, you guys like dash dancing, you guys like wave dashing. All right, well here, you can have severely nerfed versions of both of these things. And like, they're almost so bad that it doesn't matter. But I mean, of course, there's plenty of applications. Like the dash dancing's way better in this game than it was in Smash 4 and Brawl. But like, is it Melee's dash dancing where it feels truly free and creative and like really good? Nope.
Well, there's a poster child for why I don't like the patches, and that is Jigglypuff. You already mentioned how you knew about my Smash 4 Jigglypuff, and I didn't love Ultimate Jigglypuff at the start, but I quite liked playing as her. And then as soon as they buffed her down air and pound, I was like, this character isn't fun anymore, because they really took her, I don't want to say mashy options, but they took her like hold forward, just hit your opponent options, and made those things better at holding forward and just hitting your opponent instead of trying to like dance around and use her actual good mobility to her advantage. So pound just got like extra shield stun and also I believe hit stun, so it's a lot better to just go for a not quite random pound, but you know, if you pound and you actually hit it, you're going to get like a big reward, whereas in pre-patch it would have been like you had to be a little bit more careful about where you're placing them. So yeah, that's my thoughts are they basically take characters who sort of didn't fit the stereotype of just like hold forward and hit their shield and be safe, and they're kind of trying to make them more towards the whole hold forward and hit their shield and be safe.
Yeah, it fucking sucks because because like they just, you saw the Sephiroth patch, right? Like,
Unfortunately.
when I saw that, I was just like, wow. They the last like actual patch was like the Midman one, I think. They actually gave like some substantial change to some characters. If I recall, Falco got some good changes. After that, they sort of just gave up. I mean, I guess it's because there's no tournaments going on. But like, there's still a lot of like innate problems with the game itself. I don't even think like the balances should be their main priority, like I said before.
It's so hard to pick one. I think the most important, you know, independent of like my philosophy on the game's design, is like, what are you doing? Support this scene. It's so bizarre and backwards that you are like deliberately keeping it back. This is free marketing for you guys. They know it's free marketing. They have Nintendo Versus and all these partnerships with events because they know it's free marketing. But at the same time, like, you could just like put a small fraction of your annual budget into something that would truly transform the Smash community. It would change a bunch of people's lives, pro players, commentators, organizers, etc. Like, just for a few million of Nintendo's billions of dollars, you can make way more than that. Like, just think about if Nintendo ran their own circuits, like the ticket sales, the merch sales, the ad revenue from viewership and all that stuff, sponsorship. There's so much to be made. Like, and of course they're a business, so they got to do what makes them money. And I don't think anyone would be mad if they start making money moves like that. It's like, it's helping all of us. It's putting investment into the Smash ecosystem. Just like, get over whatever anxieties you have about people being turned off from competitive gaming. Riot Games made a huge name for themselves in 10 years, less than 10 years. You know, I like, League came out, what, 12 years ago now, and their IP, non-existent. Nobody knew who Riven or Ari or any of these characters were before 2009. And Nintendo has that huge head start where, like, if you decide to take these recognizable IPs and put them into esports and like try an esports business model, you'll see that there's a huge market for it. People want to watch competitive sporting events, whether it's video games, whether it's athletics, whatever. There's a huge viewer demand for it. And you're not going to turn away your casual audience. Like, somebody posted probably the best analogy I've ever seen, where it was like, imagine when they were creating the NBA, the guy who made basketball was like, I don't know about this NBA thing. You know, I don't think people are going to like shoot hoops in their driveway anymore if they see people playing at this level. It's like the complete opposite. You see people playing Smash at a godlike level, whether you're like little Jimmy or, you know, a college student or an adult, you're like, damn, this is so cool. Like, and it does nothing to inhibit my enjoyment of the game. So if anything, I'm just going to watch it and feed into the, you know, the viewership metrics and make Nintendo more money, or I'm going to go buy the game, or I'm going to go buy the game for my kid. And now it feels like there's actually a legitimate purpose for my kid playing the game instead of just like fucking around at home. It's like, wow, if my kid is really into this game, like there's an actual environment to go like make something out of yourself through this. So I now support this hobby. Like, how many kids do you think like their parents told them like, don't play games, you're wasting your time? That directly challenges that. And yeah, I don't know. And then otherwise, like, dude, make Ultimate fucking move better, man.
So this question, I had really no idea what to say, because honestly, when it comes down to it, I like playing games in unexpected and unintended ways. You know, going for timeouts on Kalos and blah, 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 which obviously that's not like unexpected or unintended. But again, I would rather play outside of some like boxed in developer expected things, like with Perfect Pivot, playing with Beto, which is completely a not intended control scheme, or playing on Smashbox, which is what I do now. I guess my one thing would be, hey, stop trying to fix bugs. Like, if a bug exists and it's not game breaking and people are able to use it for something cool, I think leave that in there. Like in Smash 4, there used to be the thing where you could like slide off ledges with a lot of animations, and they patched that out. And that specifically really sucked for my friend the Yoshi player, because I don't know if you remember early Smash 4 or Brawl Yoshi, how they would use like down B on edges and slide off if it was a slope, and then be able to do like all sorts of cool stuff out of that. I thought that was really neat. And then they're just like, we don't want you to slide off edges anymore, so we're just making you not slide off edges. It just takes all of the like super fringe cool things that people were able to do and says that wasn't intended, we're getting rid of it.
Please just fix the online. Especially because COVID is here, and I'd like to be actually playing the real game to some extent.
Same answer that I've had since like the beginning of Smash 4. I really want a Battletoads character, specifically Rash, but I mean honestly any of them would do. I love Battletoads growing up. I think it's a fantastic game.
If it's just me and I wouldn't consider anyone else's feelings or dreams and shit, I'll get Akuma in the game, because I think he'd be the best character. I think Akuma literally, every game he's in, he's top tier, ruins the game for everybody, and that's exactly what I want.
Okay, final question. This is This is crunch time, Max. This one is important, okay? You go severely up or down in my estimation based on your answer to this question. This is a fun one, just to finish it out. If you can add one character to Smash as DLC tomorrow, who is it and why?
And so I don't know. It's really tough. Characters I would want the most would be like an internet breaker, you know. So like Goku, Sora, Dante, Goku, 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 Goku.
Despite what I said right at the beginning, a lot of people might question why I even made this video in the first place. This video was intended much less to bring a lot of my and other people's issues with the game to light like the previous one, and more so intended to be visible. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I want to believe that the right people could see this video, and perhaps the changes that I and so many others want could happen if, as I say, we just make enough noise about it. This is what I'm hoping the interviews with these community members will achieve, and even if they don't, well, hey, can't blame a guy for trying. You've probably noticed by now, but I don't talk about Smash like I talk about any other game. I have a lot of angry passion for this series because I have a very personal relationship with it. It means a lot to me, and it really hurts to see a game's potential, in my mind, being squandered like this. I do also want to talk briefly, however, about what's reasonable to expect. Rollback netcode, for example, sadly, I don't think is one of those things. The Smash dev team did actually patch Smash 4 for a very brief while after its release, and thank God they did, because as you might recall, Bayo was actually more broken before they did so how different things could have been, eh? Sakurai has said multiple times that the game's DLC is currently his #1 priority, and I'm not surprised at all to hear that, because say what you want about their gameplay, but a great deal of care and detail is put into these DLC inclusions, and I think they're great deals as far as value for money is concerned. I've already touched on how cool I think Steve is, but then you've got stuff like the Sephiroth challenge and the crazy amount of music that was added alongside Terry. This stuff is so cool, and they're doing a great job with the challenger packs. I hope, perhaps somewhat naively, that when the DLC is done and the team's schedule is cleared, we can start to expect them to address some of the game's more fundamental systemic issues. They're clearly investing in this game a lot more than they ever did even in Smash 4, and it's going to be around for a lot longer. I hear people talk about Smash 6 all the time, like they can just one-up this level of content and representation again in another 5 years. Sakurai himself has said a game like this will never be possible again. This is going to be the Smash game for at least the next 7 to 8 years, I imagine. And the most you can expect, I think, is some kind of re-release on a next-gen console with all the DLC and maybe some more. So with this in mind, maybe we can expect the game to be patched post-DLC for a longer amount of time than Smash 4? And since the game, like so many of Nintendo's games, is claiming to be for everyone, we can start to see changes to the buffer system and C-stick and fixes to online. None of these things would harm the casual experience. In fact, they'd improve that as well. When you try and please everyone with anything, you're giving yourself a very lofty and I think unrealistic task. But with this game, I don't actually think it is unrealistic. I think it's close. It just needs some small but very important tweaks here and there. We're over 2 years and 10 patches into this game now. Will we ever get them? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. This is going to be the last video like this that you're going to see from me for quite a while. I've been trying to hold myself to doing one analysis video a month for a very long time now, but it's disingenuous to pretend that there's something worth analysing every month. Sometimes there's just nothing I want to talk about, you know? And as you can probably tell from the length of this video, I've burned myself out on it all quite a bit. I'd like to get back to doing the fun stuff that I really enjoy, like the D-View, and not feel obligated to be a critical analyst of any kind. I just want to do other stuff with the channel right now, so that's what I'm going to do. Patreon support continues to be the biggest reason I'm able to sustain myself while doing this. I was handed an unexpected £280 dental bill just a couple of weeks ago, and if I didn't have the safety net of my Patreon to fall back on, I might have just ripped my own jaw off my own face right there. I'd hugely appreciate if you consider pledging some money to it, and I even hugely appreciate those who already have, especially at the highest tier, such as Cheesy Chip, Mike Archer, Mike Craig, Captain L, Good Chicken, Chris Monk, Derek Drost, Flashing Fire, Cousin Boneless, Tale of the Toaster, Waldington, Justin Mills, Heist Van Gieren, Garm, Super, Perry Porkchop, Isaac Vermeer, Charnucky, The Ghost of Karl Marx in 4D, cheers Carl, Isaac Beardswood, Kyle, Isaac, another one, Jesus, you guys are multiplying or something, GP, and Swagboy. Thank you guys again. I'm never doing this again. Bye.